Okay, so I fucked up and forgot that I can't hear anything in OBS for some reason, and I never looked into that. So that's fun. Because I'm still not hearing any of the sound alerts for some reason, even though the output setting is set to my headset like it's supposed to be. So I have no idea why I cannot hear anything in OBS. It shows it's making sound, so I'm assuming you guys hear it, but I'm not hearing it on my end. And it's set to monitor and output. And I completely forgot to look into that. But I did make a new model. I didn't forget to do that. But thank you to Pyro and K-chan, who probably can't hear me anymore, for the donations. So we're going to be reading A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. And I need to... I got a book for my model to hold. I gotta put that on there. Look. Yeah, now hold the book. I forgot I also need a timer. Alright, so first I'm going to read the description from the jacket. Because it sounds pretty cool. For centuries, the 8 courts of folk have lived among us, concealed by magic and bound by law, and do not harm to humans. This arrangement has long kept peace in the courts, until a series of gruesome and ritualistic murders rocks the city of Toronto and threatens to expose fairies to the human world. 4 queer teens, each holding a key piece of the truth behind these murders, must form a tenuous alliance in their effort to track down the mysterious killer behind these crimes. If they fail, they risk the destruction of the fairy and human worlds alike. If that's not bad enough, there's a war brewing between the mortal and immortal realms, and one of these teens is destined to tip the scales. The only question is which way. Wish them luck, they're going to need it. So that's the description. Oh, so the author has a slight obsession with The Legend of Zelda, Kingdom Hearts, and Final Fantasy. And they have a cat named Zack. And a collection of cosplay swords. Well, the author also sounds amazing. I did not think how I was going to hold my book while reading either. Okay, I guess I should probably put these content warnings. I'm probably gonna need to make a thing for to show these content warnings every stream. But content warnings: anger, arson, blood, gore, body horror, death of a child, depression, disownment, divorce, drug use, addiction, grief, grieving, human trafficking, poverty, psychopathy, stalking, suicide, suicidal ideation, toxic relationship, manipulation, trauma, PTSD, racism, violence, gun violence. Yeah, all the fun things. I wish my life would have gave me content warnings for all those things. I'm already having trouble speaking, so Reading for 25 minutes is going to be fun. It is going to be just reading today because I worked and I have to work in the morning, so. I also need to get something to put that, like, I probably won't respond to chat while I'm reading. I'm gonna have to do that too. So I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and start reading now. For 25 minutes. If I don't get distracted. Prologue, Alecto, the immortal realm of chaos, infernal palace. The floor Alecto knelt on was a glittering sea of black marble flecked with diamond white, such a perfect mockery of the night sky. This was the closest she'd felt to the heavens in some time. Admittedly, Alecto couldn't remember when she's last found comfort in such a place, but it was strangely reassuring now to imagine she could sink into the starry stone beneath her and vanish altogether. How wonderful it would be to vanish, to simply cease existing and disappear. Now that her revenge was complete, there was nothing left to tether her here, or anywhere else for that matter. She felt no guilt for what she'd done and no fear of whatever came next. Not even pain could rouse her from apathy. To ensure the safety of those who'd gathered for her trial, enormous iron stakes had been driven through the sleek... I probably shouldn't have been drinking soda. To ensure the safety of those who'd gathered for her trial, enormous iron stakes had been driven through the sleek membrane of her unfurled wings, pinning her to the floor. The touch of such a poisonous metal should have been excruciating, but Alecto felt it no more in her wings than she felt that same corrosive iron eating away at her shackled wrists, which was to say not at all. Alecto was facing death for her actions. She could still taste ashen bone in her mouth and smell burning flesh in the air. She could even hear the echoes of her rage reverberating from the yawning pit her soul had become. Yet for all this, Alecto was at peace. She was relieved. She hadn't been expecting that, not to this degree at least. She hadn't been hoping for it either. She'd taken revenge, straightforward and simple, and hadn't acted with the fool's belief that vengeance would change anything. Oh, that's a name. Okay. Tisiphone? Her beloved sister, her dearest friend, would still be dead, and that was a truth Alecto could never recover from. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Erinys, Alecto? Alecto raised her head. An emotion clawed its way out of the darkness of her heart and shaped itself into the razor-wild parody of a smile. To say for myself? She laughed. It was a hollow sound, an ugly sound, but it was hers. The laugh was fury of a different sort, and Alecto would make sure that it would be a sound these gathered powers would never forget. Forg! Thank you for the $5 donation. Now I've lost my place. Alecto slid her gaze to the throne, a throne that writhed with living tongues of flame and twists of billowing wind, and locked eyes with the goddess who sat there. Uriel? Goddess of the elements, lady of chaos. Uriel was queen of the largest infernal domain of the immortal realm. Uriel, Alecto's mother. Oh shit. Her own mother. Well, Alecto replied as her rasping laughter died off, I think it's safe to say the title of Erinys is no longer mine. Unease rippled through the guards, who lined the room like pillars. Murmurs rolled like waves from the rest of the crowd. So many people Alecto had once considered friends, now craning their necks to bear witness to her humiliation. Everyone liked a show. Loyalty meant surprisingly little to Alecto's people. Beside the goddess stood Erinys Megara, the only sister Alecto now had left. However much they disliked each other. As Alecto expected, there was no love for her in Megara's gaze, no pity. Alecto would be replaced when she was over, so too would Tisiphone. I guess that's how you say that. I already forgot how I pronounced it the first time. The realm's respect for Alecto's grief would no longer delay what was inevitable. Other immortals would be trained to fill Alecto and Tisiphone's roles, and the Furies would be three once again. Perhaps Alecto should have cherished her eldest sister a little better, but there was no altering the past. She knew that well. Megara might once have loved her, but that had been some time ago, and now all that shone in her steely glare was disgust. Out of everyone, only Uriel remained impassive, although Alecto could see a torrent of emotions deep within her infinite black eyes. "There is no humor in what you've brought before me," said Uriel, her voice as smooth as undisturbed water, but hard and cutting as jagged stone. "You stand accused of murder, Aranese Alecto. You took 11 mortal lives without permission, lives unmarked for death. Your actions this night in the name of vengeance have not only violated the laws that govern our realms, but also the very oaths you swore when you became a Fury. To these accusations, how do you plead?" To the crimes, Alecto took no time for thought. "I plead not guilty." Megara snarled, "I saw you." In the flare of her temper, her wings burst wide. The gathered crowd shrank back in a scattered shower of gasp. Beautiful things, those wings. Gossamer soft, neither leather nor feather, and black as beetle shells. They were great enough to span the room behind the throne. Alecto's wings had once been just as glorious. Now they were pierced and tattered and singed down to smoldering rags, like the sails of the gutted ship she'd left to haunt the waters. "I was the one who dragged you from that ship you set ablaze. With starfire, no less." Megara was trembling with rage. "Your tantrum tethered 11 souls to the ocean floor and to a flame even eternity cannot extinguish. I was the one who pulled you from the devastation you unleashed upon the mortal realm, and I was the one to witness your unrepentant delight in your victim's suffering. Do not deny the truth." "You mistake my meaning," Alecto drawled. "I freely admit to all crimes you accuse me of. I did it, yes. I simply don't feel guilty about any of it." Megara opened her mouth to retort, but Uriel silenced her with the wave of her hand. "The punishment for these violations is destruction," Uriel continued. "Destruction, not death. Immortals didn't die, they were destroyed, unmade. Their souls were ground down to dust and thrown back to the stars to be woven into something else. Someone else, but not reborn as mortals were." For what she'd done, Alecto would be erased from existence altogether. It was almost a blessing. "I'm happy enough with the destruction I caused to accept your gracious offer," she countered. Aranese Alecto, at last the goddess's emotionless mask broke. She rose from her violent throne and descended the dais, fiery sparks igniting at her heels with every step. In Uriel's anger, she filled the chamber entirely. The space around her flared lightning bright. Alecto winced, but she refused to drop her gaze. "I have made thee. I can unmake thee just as easily," the goddess declared. "Do you truly show no remorse for your crimes against me? You have no regret about seeing my law, a law that you swore to uphold, now broken at your feet?" "Link! Hello, Link. You like my chibi form?"
Arara.
I wish I could
I've
hear
been
that.
told we have a
I can't hear
special
it.
new pet. Chica is actually a really good pet.
Thank
She's the
you.
perfect pet.
Yeah, I forgot that I couldn't hear anything in OBS last time and did not look into that, so I still can't hear anything in OBS. Why is it showing in chat that, did you? Oh, I missed so many messages that I didn't even notice you sent. Thank you for subbing again. I thought you subbed last stream, but I guess you only gifted? I thought you also resubbed. I'm so confused. Okay, I need to posture check and hydrate. Hello, Hadel. That's interesting, Link. I don't know why it did that. Is that what that announcement was? Yeah, I didn't turn off the multi-stream announcement. Let me go turn that off. I'm doing good. How are you, Hadel? We are reading a book that I'm pausing at for a moment because I got distracted by Link. And I need to turn off that multi-stream announcement because I forgot that was active. Alright, just turn that off. Okay. Now it won't do that again. Yeah, Monster Hunter. Yeah. It was like pre-made, customizable.
Imagine not being subscribed to Chica. Couldn't be me.
Chibi.
Shouldn't
So like
be
it
you.
was all pre-made
So
and I
make
just
sure you
went
do
in
that
and like
sub button.
customized it to look like
Think
me.
of 5 friends, gift them
So
a
yeah,
sub.
the rigging is
Here's some
really
bits. You know, donate to the charity if you're feeling really generous. But make sure, most of all,
good. I wish I could have heard that promo. I was probably talking over it the whole time and you couldn't hear
what are you
anything.
even doing?
True. Borg is a Monster Hunter Pro. Okay, yes, I will stretch as well. Yeah, I can't do a backflip. No. That's not possible. No, no flippies. I don't know how to do flippies. Yeah, no, I don't know how I would do flippies. It's impossible. My daughter, you were meant for so much more than this. Our mother's words were gentler in Electo's head than how they were spoken, but they were no more welcome. I am meant for whatever I choose, Electo scathed in return. Aloud, she added, Goddess Mother, I can unmake myself and have. For a moment, Uriel stood frozen, then she sighed. So be it. The goddess raised a hand, and the shadows in the room began to twist away from the walls. Erinys Electo, you are hereby stripped of your name. The shadows lashed out like angered cobras. Launching themselves at Electo, they wound tightly around her body. You are stripped of your rank. The shadows began to constrict. Electo struggled. She grunted and groaned and gnashed her teeth. Her satisfaction with her revenge had placed her in the eye of her own storm, in a calm that had belied her rage. But she was sailing out of it now, back into the dark and thunderous tempest of her ever-simmering anger. You are stripped of the privilege of your office. You see fit to dole out punishment to mortals at your own choosing, and so your own punishment will be to live forever among them. Electo blinked up at her in surprise, but Uriel wasn't done. You are expelled from the immortal realm. You are expelled from the sisterhood, and from my favor and from my heart. I banish thee to the realm of mortals, and tether your eternity to its soil. At last, Electo's storm broke free. No! This wasn't what she'd wanted. She'd been counting on destruction, on release from the torment inside her own head. Not this banishment her mother was inflicting, this eternal torture, trapping Electo forever in her anger and grief. I have never needed your name, Electo seethed. The shadows coiled around her throat, but she ignored them. I have never needed you, you coward. You have failed, Goddess Mother. The tighter the shadows squeezed, the harder Electo struggled. She threw her all into this fight, pitching forward with every ounce of might she could muster. In the process, her wings tore further around the spikes that kept them pinned down, but still she continued to rage. You've failed. You've failed Tisiphone. You've failed me. I will never forgive what you allowed to take place, what you allowed to go unacknowledged and unpunished. You are no mother of mine, no goddess of mine. Alecto could only see in slivers now, but it was too late for the sorrow beginning at last to soften Uriel's expression. When the sympathy was needed most, when Tisiphone had needed this understanding, and after when Alecto had first come to the mother she'd once adored so fiercely, in grief so profound she'd hardly been able to speak, it had been withheld in favor of law. Alecto's actions were her own. She knew that full well, but if Uriel didn't see the hand she'd had in her daughter's fall from grace, Alecto didn't care to make her see it now. It was done. She was done. Uriel bowed her head. I did fail you, my daughter. Nausicaa? Said Alecto. Nausicaa, a beautiful mortal name. Burner of ships, it meant, and she couldn't think of a more fitting title. Her revenge had altered her in a way that could never be undone, and if they weren't going to destroy her, Alecto, Nausicaa, would not preserve what she no longer was. She would wear her crimes like a badge of honor. Nausicaa, the goddess amended. The brief glimmer of sadness in Uriel's gaze was the last thing Nausicaa saw before the shadows sealed themselves around her fully, but the storm inside her raged on. I expel you, she bellowed. Though she had no way of knowing whether the goddess heard her, she continued to shout until stars burst behind her eyes and her consciousness began to fade. I expel you from my favor. I expel you from my heart. I expel you, and I will never love you again for what you've done to me. Forget that you loved me, if you must, but please, do not forget you loved at all, and do not forget you loved so fiercely it made you the best of your name. Oh, Nausicaa wouldn't forget she loved her goddess mother. She wouldn't forget she loved Tisiphone. She would remember both, and in remembering, she would never allow herself to feel that love again. Much like that whaler and its disgusting crew, and among them the mortal who thought he could make fools out of Furies, all of them burning forevermore at the bottom of the North Atlantic Ocean. Nausicaa's rage would survive the ages, and it was all that she would be. It wasn't until she found herself on her back, blinking up at the too cheerful blue of the mortal realm sky, that she realized she'd succumbed to last to the shadows. She was no longer in the throne room of the Infernal Palace. Her family, her former friends, the freezing starry marble, all were gone, but her mother's final words still echoed in her ears. You still have it in you to be what the stars design, my daughter. She scoffed, fisting the grass that carpeted the rolling plains of wherever in the mortal realm she'd been discarded. She ignored the tears that clung to her lashes like the dew around her. It was no longer up to the stars to decide Nausicaa's fate. They'd lost that privilege in their treatment of Tisiphone. Her fate was now up to her, and if the oh-so-powerful deities weren't brave enough to destroy her, she was going to make them regret letting her discover just how satisfying it was to watch things burn. Yeah, audiobook simulator. I don't believe you, Link. I don't know how I have a good narrator voice. You know what I just realized? I checked off that hydrate and I didn't ever actually hydrate. So I did some extra hydrating since I forgot. If you say so, Link. I'm not gonna believe you, but you say whatever you want. All was quiet at Neville Life Pharmaceuticals, and that was how Hero preferred it? His name is just Hero? Okay. He didn't like the bustle of day, the coming and going couriers with their jokes that weren't funny at all, but mean, the numerous doctors and research assistants who, with their college degrees and their salaried pay, lorded over the place like they were better than everyone else, particularly Hero. The general staff, who seemed to delight in making Hero's job more difficult, the way they treated the spaces he cleaned. Hero was a janitor. It wasn't considered a glorious job to many, but it was money he desperately needed. He was 28 years old with no family or partner to help make ends meet, and certainly no savings to allow him to pursue higher education in hope of finding a better career. When he wasn't unclogging toilets and mopping up spills, he worked at a local tech support call center. He delivered flyers. He bagged groceries and retrieved wayward carts and cleaned up yet more spills at the grocery store closest to his one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood that shouldn't cost as much to live in as it did. And still it wasn't enough. Still Hero struggled to pay all his bills and afford the little luxuries of life like food and clothing and deeply necessary medication. Yes, because those are luxuries, apparently. Food, clothing, and medication are luxuries. This book is too real. The world was tough, but it was better when it was quiet, even if it was also a little lonely. And don't forget to lock the door when you leave this time, dumbass. Hero nodded vigorously. Darren, his supervisor, was a short, middle-aged man with an even shorter temper, brown hair, watery eyes, and the build of a high school football star slightly gone to seed. Darren didn't like Hero, and who was a little bit mousy, a bit skinny, with wide eyes ringed by dark fatigue and black hair that made him seem sickly pale in contrast. Then again, no one liked Hero. Odd, they called him. Awkward. But he couldn't afford to get fired from another job because of this. Yo, he's been fired from jobs for being awkward? That's rude. And he couldn't let his increasing forgetfulness cost him so dearly again, not when he was already behind on last month's rent. He was keen to keep Darren happy, even if he'd much rather do something else. The bottle of bleach on his cart, for instance. Hero allowed himself a moment to fantasize the sound of Darren's screams if some of that chemical somehow found its way onto his face. What are you, a bobblehead? Stop nodding like that. You'll shake what's left of your brains loose, and I'll really have my hands full with you then. So sorry, sir, Hero stuttered. Darren barked a laugh. Sorry, sir, he mocked, stuttering like some damn girl at every little thing. Man up, kid. Okay, apparently stuttering is only for girls now. That's new to me. Yes, sir. Hero winced. Darren shook his head, hopeless. He reached out to flick Hero's name tag and chuckled again. Hero, what a joke. Remember, lock the fucking door, Superman. And finally he was gone. Releasing a sigh, Hero sagged against his supply cart, taking a moment to collect himself. It hadn't always been this way. Once upon a time, he had ambitions beyond finding... Oops, I blocked my camera from seeing me for a second. Now I've lost my place. It hadn't always been this way. Once upon a time, he had ambitions beyond finding a repellent that would actually keep cockroaches out of his apartment. Once upon a time, he hadn't had this stutter, his memory hadn't been so poor, and his sleep hadn't been plagued by nightmares and terrors, leaving him constantly tired. It wasn't until recently that any of this had started, that his already bad situation had taken an alarming turn for the worse, with random voices in his head and flashes of memories that couldn't be his. Oh, well, that's not fun. And that's what the medications were for. Those criminally expensive medications that forced him to choose between mental health and things like electricity. Hero kicked a wheel of his cleaning cart hard enough to topple several of its contents. There was no use getting upset about things when nobody cared, and he figured it could always be worse. But it could be better, he muttered. Significantly so, I imagine. Hero startled so violently he almost collided with his cart. A man stood behind him where there hadn't been a man before. Hadn't been anyone, just a dimly lit hallway. Hero's first impression of him was that he was tall. He wasn't the ordinary tall that belonged to the other tall people. It was a tall that, if Hero had ever thought about it before, he would have attributed to gods. Alright, so he's very tall, apparently. Hello, Kenyo. Welcome. We're reading. And I keep getting distracted. His face was beautiful, splattered with unusual silvery freckles, like specks of starlight, and his eyes were so bright a green they gleamed like acid. Half of his wild gunmetal hair hung all the way to his waist, while the other half had been shaved to the skull. He was willow lean but strong, and his long-fingered left hand was capped with lethal claws. Shit, he's got claws? The fuck? Yeah, apparently this dude is very tall. We are reading A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. It has gay people in it. And that's why we're reading it. Yes, opposite of me, Link. I am small. Hero had never seen anything like this man with all the presence of a shadow and his tight black pants and an elaborate black jacket, studded and gilded with yet more silver and buckles and elegant chains. It was possible he was a god, all this considered. Even more likely, though, was that he wasn't real at all. Hero closed his eyes. It wasn't the first time he'd seen something that wasn't there at second glance. Bizarre creatures with wings and horns and blue-tinted skin, or bustling shop fronts that were actually just abandoned buildings, and usually these sights vanished within a blink. But when Hero opened his eyes again, the beautiful man was still there, and he was grinning. "Hello," Hero greeted. He didn't know what else to say. "Can I help you? I don't think you're supposed to be here." Yo, he's got the sight. Yes, I'm a small baby. Yeah, that sounds like he had this. This book is also apparently like kind of like the Mortal Instruments, which I love. But I'm totally guessing that he can like see the other realm, just like God, I don't remember any of the characters' names in Mortal Instruments anymore. But yeah, the same way that the sight works in the Mortal Instruments. I remember the name of that. But yeah, he's not crazy. He can just see the other realm. He doesn't need medication. The man laughed. It was a sound like creaking floorboards. "Oh no, you're absolutely right. I really am not. But then, you aren't supposed to be here either." Hero bristled. "Of course I am. I'm the janitor." Yes you are, aren't you?" The way this man looked him over made Hero shiver despite the heat. To be seen in such a way by someone Hero would never expect to notice someone like him. The janitor, one who turned down full scholarships to very impressive schools because it suited their oh my god. I hate this word. Negligent mother, better to have you at home taking care of your siblings, and you were oh so desperate to please her. The janitor, one who understands much more of what goes on here than he lets on, who devours whole textbooks on scientific theory, and likes to put to experiment the things he learns from them. Oh hell, was this man some sort of undercover cop? Hero paled. He thought of the storage unit that served as his makeshift lab in the next neighborhood over, where nobody asked any questions so long as his payments were timely. "Listen, those animals were already dead," he lied. "I found them on the side of the road. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just..." Yo, he's been testing on animals. That's rude. I don't like him anymore. He's been testing on animals. I don't even know what he's been testing, but it's probably not good. "You've been having some trouble lately, yes?" The man cut him off, his grin growing sharper. "Headaches, sleeplessness, lapses in memory, hallucinations and vivid dreams, and things that feel familiar but shouldn't?" He sighed, but the action lacked sympathy. It only seemed to fuel his amusement. The stutter, an uncommon side effect, I admit, but there have been other iron-born like you who've responded similarly to having their magic suppressed, to being weighed by the Fey High Council and found wanting, power locked away, only for it to grow stronger just a little bit later than expected and rebel against its confines. The Fey High Council? Wade? Hero had a lot of questions. Who was this man? How did he know so much about him? Yeah, he said he lied, though. So they weren't actually dead. He was just saying that. "Okay, Kenyo. Have fun working." I hate when the sentence is cut off in the middle of a page. What was he even talking about? He didn't look like a police officer, but what else could he be, if not that? What Hero said aloud, though, and very carefully, was, "What do you mean by magic?" "Okay, Link, have fun." Probably gonna be... I mean, I've already been reading for 22 minutes, and I'm about to finish the prologue, so we're probably gonna be stopping here soon. Yeah, it's definitely interesting so far. A warm and pleasant tingling washed through him at the mere mention of the word. A memory, barely there, only just out of reach. The man's grin had spread across the whole of his face now, and it was terrible. He was terrible. He was beautiful in a way that was difficult to look at, but at the same time horrifyingly wraith-like in a way that disfigured that beauty entirely. By all means, he was the very sort of person who should make Hiro's anxiety shoot through the roof, and yet Hiro was nothing but calm. You know, I think I'd rather show you, the man said, and took a step toward Hiro. He reached out a claw-tipped finger and tilted Hiro's name tag. Hiro, your life has been so hard. Cast out by your family, adrift in a world you were never meant for. Your cunning and brains and passion wasted on tending to other people. Tired, hungry, poor, I took your magic, those 10 years ago, by order of those I'm bound to serve. But what if, like you, I've grown tired of service? What if I could give that magic back? What if I could restore you to your proper role, make you that hero you were clearly born to be? What then would you do for me? If this was anyone else, Hiro would have laughed and brushed them off as insane. This talk of magic, it was something a therapist would prescribe him more medication to cure, were he actually able to afford either. But there was a look in the man's eyes, a gravity in his air, a tone in his voice. He wasn't leading Hiro on. Despite his teasing, this wasn't a joke. He was serious, and above all else, for the first time in far too long, Hiro felt like someone was actually listening. Everyone Hiro talked to about his problem seemed to think it was all in Hiro's head. But here was someone who not only acknowledged them as real, but could possibly explain their cause, and that was, well, it was very tempting. Hiro would readily accept the wild improbability that magic existed if it meant getting to the root of why his health was so rapidly deteriorating. Besides this was the very thing countless others like him dreamed of, finding out they were meant for greater things, that the world possessed magic, and they themselves did too. It should be impossible, but this man, the way he'd so suddenly appeared out of nowhere. What if? Hiro eyed his mysterious intruder. He took a breath and released it slowly. I'm listening, he said, and for the first time in years he stood tall. His voice didn't tremble, his eyes didn't shake, his head was clear and his focus sharp. The mysterious man swept an arm toward the door. This time, when Hiro left through it, he left it unlocked on purpose. Oh, Darren's gonna be mad at him for that. I didn't get a bookmark. Boki! Hello, Boki! We just finished the prologue to A Dark and Hollow Star. I'm gonna have to use the jacket as a bookmark because I forgot to get a bookmark. But we read the prologue. It took 25.5 minutes. So we've done our 25 minutes of reading today. So I am actually done reading for today. I said it was going to be a short stream because I work today and I have to work tomorrow. That's not what I need. Get rid of my book. I need to put that on a toggle so I don't have to pull up the menus for that. Thank you! Is a cute chibi model that's customizable, made by somebody who has a name that is a bunch of letters and numbers. 0x4682b4. I don't know if that's supposed to be pronounced like a word. It doesn't look like any word that I know. But yeah, it's very cute. I love it. So we're gonna raid Pyro because I haven't raided Pyro in forever since they're never streaming when I'm ending usually. If anyone wants to make a raid message, I guess I can type out the usual one. I need to make a command for that. Thank you, Boki. You have a good one too. I can't see what I'm typing. So that's fun. Yeah, there's the raid message. I guess I need to have Pyro's stream pulled up where I can actually hear it as well. Hopefully you guys don't hear it. Oh, yep. There it goes. Okay, yeah, we'll be reading again tomorrow. Around the same time, as long as I don't get out of work late. I'm supposed to get off at 6 again, but we'll see. But bye-bye.